This is Red Podcast number 188. It's a brand new year. Is it really going to be any different than last year? Yes, it can be. I'll show you how. That's coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. How to take your idea and make a name for yourself within your industry and beyond. Spread your message. Attract a following. Rise above the noise. Here's your host, David Hooper.
Happy New Year. We're about 1 week into the new year. Everything's settled down a little bit. And hopefully, you're getting very clear on what you want to accomplish, getting past the hype that we see on Facebook, Twitter, every type of media, the new year, new you, as if this year is going to be any different than last year. Of course, it can be different if you want it to be, and that's what I'm going to talk about on this episode. This is the Red Podcast, the podcast for influencers. If you're a blogger, a podcaster, speaker, marketer, a nonfiction author, or an entrepreneur with a message to spread, this is the podcast for you. Here's what I talk about: book publishing, podcasting, speaking, and other marketing elements of your business that you must master to make a name for yourself and spread your message. And that's what the focus is. It's how to take your idea, make a name for yourself, spread your message, and make money. You ever hired a life coach or talked to a life coach? Several years ago, when life coaching was kind of coming on the scene, people were first starting to find out about it in a big way, maybe 15 years ago. Was curious. Guy was having a free consultation, and I don't even remember how I found out about this guy. I think he had posted something on maybe a forum, maybe a Usenet message board. If you remember Usenet, they're still around. Before web-based forums, before Facebook, social media, this is how we connected on the internet. And I think that's how I found out about this guy. He said, hey, I'm a life coach, free coaching session, help you get your life in order. So 15 years ago, called this guy. He gave me a free session. And I remember thinking when I got on there, I was like, God, this isn't working for me. He did this exercise. It was called the life wheel. You can imagine this. What he had me do is draw a circle, and then I sliced it up as if it were a pizza, maybe a Trivial Pursuit wheel, just so you get the visualization there. And in each of the pieces of pie, I put various elements of my life. And common things that you'll see on a life wheel, you'll see like business and career, finance and wealth, health and fitness, social, friendship. You have engaging friends, people that you like. Are you socializing to a satisfactory level? So the social and friends piece of the pie. Family, love, recreation and fun. Are you enjoying life and making it fun? Contribution. Do you feel that you're making a contribution to the world? Personal growth. There's a spiritual element. How connected are you to spirit, God, to atheism maybe? And also self-image. Do you think of your abilities highly? Where are you when it comes to your self-confidence? Those are the levels that you often see on the life wheel. And what he had me do is on each of these pieces of pie, go in and based on where I wanted to be, thinking of this wheel, this circle as a target, the closer to the center, I would make a mark as if I had bullets or arrows that I was shooting into this life wheel, hitting each of those targets. The closer to the center of the pie, the better that I was doing. And I remember thinking, man, this is just a bunch of bullshit. This is not helping me one bit. I really felt it was more like busy work. This guy was running me through some kind of system that he had learned on how to be a life coach, but he didn't really get to know me. I understand what he was probably doing, was trying to evaluate where I was. We would maybe talk about where I wanted to be, and then he, in theory, could sell me on other services on where I wanted to be. But I bring the life wheel up because I do feel that it's important when conducting your life goals, when figuring out what you want for the new year, new you, for your New Year's resolution. And a lot of people are doing this right now, the first of the year, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when it comes to your business. I think there are some important things that will help you to accomplish what you want to in the new year. And I'm going to talk about my version of this, my simplified version of this in just a second. First off, though, before I get to that, Michael Hyatt, very popular blogger, The guy seems to be everywhere. Popular podcast. Michael Hyatt has a version of this. He calls it the life score. In his version, he has 10 elements: spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physically, marital, parental, social, vocational. If you don't know what that word means, that means work. Avocational, what you do outside of work, and also financial. He's got 10 elements, what he calls the life score assessment. And the way he measures how well you're doing is just a scale of 1 to 10. If you get his life score assessment, and I'll have that linked at the episode notes. That's at redpodcast.com/188. He has an Excel spreadsheet. You rate all these elements on a scale of 1 to 12. He's got commentary here. For example, the first thing he leads off with is spiritual. 1, 2, and 3. He says this: I feel disconnected from God. I'm not making any initiative to pursue spiritual development. I feel rudderless and wonder why my life even matters. I am not part of a faith community. For emotional, another one of his elements here, if you were to say 1, 2, or 3, his commentary is, I'm often sad and don't have much energy. I struggle with low self-esteem and worry. I'm often stressed and use alcohol, drugs, or other addictive behaviors to deal with it. So that's emotional, if you were to rank yourself 1, 2, or 3. Life score assessment, I'll have that linked at redpodcast.com/188 if you want to see Michael Hyatt's version of this. Let me tell you what I do, because I keep this a lot more simple. And if you're looking at your goals for the new year, if you're trying to accomplish more, here's how I do that. Basically, I do 2 things. And regarding balance in life, just kind of a side note, you define your major segments. Michael Hyatt, number 1, spiritual. Well, Michael Hyatt's a Christian blogger. He's known in that community. He was president of Thomas Nelson, a large Christian publisher. A lot of his stuff is faith-based. And what I just read, for what he considers a 1, 2, or 3 level of spirituality, if you're not a spiritual person, that doesn't necessarily mean that your life is out of balance. But if you look at the life score assessment, it's going to throw everything off because it's based on his criteria. Your life is not based on somebody else's criteria. Your life is based on your criteria. So you need to define your major segments. The life wheel, whatever you want to call it, it may not apply to you. For example, there is a huge push for work-life balance with entrepreneurs. And personally, I think it's very important, even if you like your work, to step away from it. You come back to your work refreshed. But it doesn't necessarily mean if you're not taking a vacation or if you're not doing a lot of personal things that your life is out of balance. You don't need a vacation from work if you like your work. The people that I see that are really into the 4-hour work week, that really get into that fantasy of sitting on the beach, sipping an umbrella drink, hanging out, those people hate their work. Tim Ferriss, this is the guy who wrote the 4-hour work week. He's not working 4 hours because he loves his work. The 4-hour work week is for people who hate working. So you don't need the 4-hour work week kind of balance if you enjoy your work. What I would suggest that you do is find work that you love. Set your life up to where you don't need 5 vacations per year, 10 vacations per year. You can't wait to get to work. That is true freedom. So regarding balance, set yourself up to where you don't need the kind of balance that other people may need. They need balance because they've got negative stuff in their life. You just remove the negative stuff, you're all good. Also, I think you need to forget the numbers. Michael Hyatt, his level is 1 to 12. What does that even mean? Have you ever seen Spinal Tap? If you're a musician, you'll appreciate this. And if you're not a musician, you'll understand even if you've had a stereo. Stereo is normally 1 to 10. That's the volume level. And the joke on Spinal Tap is they had amplifiers that went up to 11, one louder than 10. What does that even mean, though? Just make 10 louder. Same for you. What is 1 to 12? What does that even mean? It's like these 5-star reviews on Amazon. The criteria for my 5-star may be completely different than the criteria for your 5-star. So we can't base things on numbers because numbers are arbitrary. The question, when you're going through a life wheel or life assessment, these different elements of life, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physical, marital, parental, social, vocational, or avocational, and also financial, do you want more or do you want less? That is the only question you need to ask yourself when assessing your life on these terms. You don't need a diagram that looks like a pie chart, something from Trivial Pursuit. You don't need a spreadsheet. You just need to ask yourself, do you want more of this or do you want less? Some things you're going to want more of. Maybe you want more money. Some things you're going to want less of. Stress. More is not necessarily better. Some things you want more of, money. Who couldn't use more money? But some things, less of. Less stress is usually better than more stress. Here's the second thing that I do. This is regarding goals. I come up with a major goal for the year. My major goals for the year, to use those as an example, I want to be more regular about putting this podcast out. I want to finish my new book. I've got a certain level of income that I want to have. Here's the one question that I ask myself concerning those goals. Will this action get me closer to this goal or take me further away? For example, this podcast, the recording that I'm making right now, that gets me closer to getting out a podcast that you can hear. Spending time on Facebook, that takes me further away from getting out a podcast that you can hear. That is my only criteria when it comes to whether or not I should do a task. So for your goals regarding balance, do you want more or less of these things in your life? And also, define your goal. What are your major goals? And ask yourself this one question. Will this action, this decision get me closer to these goals? Or will it take me further away? Hey, next episode, I'm going to look at ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these terrorist groups. These guys are doing a great job of recruiting new people. You can learn a lot from them when it comes to your business, recruiting people who believe your message and then getting them to go out and spread your message. Marketing Lessons from ISIS is next on Red Podcast. If you want to make sure that you do not miss that episode, don't miss any episode. Go to redpodcast.com. Easy one-click subscriptions no matter how you get your podcast. If you get Red Podcast via iTunes, one click, I can get you subscribed. If you're on Android, one click, I can get you subscribed. If you're using something completely different, one click, I will get you subscribed. You will never miss an episode of Red Podcast, and I've got some great stuff coming up this year. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for helping me to build the Red Podcast community. If you're not already a member of the Red Insiders, we get on the phone. I'm going to talk personally with you about your business. RedPodcast.com has more information about how to get connected with the Red Insiders. If you've got questions or comments, reach out to me. @DavidHooper on Twitter is how to do that. Again, thank you so much for listening to Red Podcast, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, the marketing podcast for influencers. Never miss an episode. Subscribe now with your iPhone, Android, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.